We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chai Together. I am here with Miss Amy. Amy, pronounce your last name.
It's Reczek.
Reczek. And Amy is Mr. Barry Overton's woman. For those who know
Yes.
Mr. Barry, ignite your greatness. And it's really awesome to have you here. So,
Thank you.
everyone, welcome back to Chai Together for your courage, hope, and imagination today. So today is Thursday. Is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I know. I thought that this morning too, though. So weeks go fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And we are here with our awesome mugs, and we're both having coffee.
Coffee girl. Yes, yes. All the way.
Wow. And before I tell a little bit about Amy, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Feeling good. Everything's good.
You can see like my glasses are fogging up. Like it's real out here.
Hi, Rhonda. Rhonda just popped in.
Yeah. Hi, Rhonda. Rhonda has a great vision boarding class going on. But yeah, this is raw and pure. This is what Chai Together is about.
Right? Yeah.
I don't care. Yeah, it's hump day, she said. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And I'm going to share a little bit about Amy's bio now. So as a heart patient, Amy knows physical limitations and mental struggles with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. She's had 3 open heart surgeries and many tests yearly. So she's no stranger to the hospital. And she's now the founder of Sales and Presence, and which is her book in the back right there that we're going to talk more about because it caught my eye. And she's also a keynote speaker, a trainer, and she also consults. So it's incredible. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You're welcome, Rhonda.
I don't get to share the personal side of my story a lot outwardly to the public, so I'm excited to be here for that.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's the coffee that was making it hot. I had to put it down. No shame. So where do you want to start?
Well, we could start with, the journey has been since I was born, right? So I was born with a heart condition. My parents actually had my sibling a year before me who didn't live. She lived about a month, and she had a heart condition too. And so for the fact that that was twice for them, and they had to go through this journey of all these different medical tests and flying around to different hospitals and figuring out what the best was. And, now that I'm an adult and look back at that, I can't even imagine as a parent going through that and what those hurdles would have been. Especially in 77, I was born. So it was still kind of we're still developing within heart conditions. But so CHD, congenital heart defects, is the #1 defect in infants in the US. 1 child every 15 minutes will be born with a heart condition. So it's not uncommon. It's just not talked about. And it is a disease and a condition that isn't most of the time physically aware to the general public. So things that I might be struggling with during the day, or even going to the grocery store or doing things like that, people cannot see it. So it's difficult in that way because it's a silent disease, if you will. And then adding on to that most that have CHD struggle then with mental illness too, which is also a silent disease. So you have kind of these 2 big things that are going on. And how do you learn to communicate with yourself physically and mentally to get through some of those things? And that was a long journey for me to do. Growing up, I was fine. I was medically fine, and my heart was okay. So they kind of wrote me off as like, be a normal kid, do normal things. And it really wasn't until years later that I figured out I had massive anxiety, massive depression going on all through junior high, high school, college that was undiagnosed. And it was due to the physical elements and what was going on. I have a massive scar down my chest. That is something that growing up was a hard thing to deal with. I still today catch myself, if Barry and I go out to dinner and those types of things, if I'm wearing something that's open, I'm like, oh, do I put makeup on that? How's that going to look? It's definitely, I'm self-aware of that. And it's always a challenge. And I think growing up, especially through puberty and everything else, that's a struggle. But it was never talked about, and it was never addressed. And so those types of things really started coming up, right in college. I went away for college. So I grew up in Montana, and I went to Minnesota for college. And that's when the depression really kicked in and was really noticeable, to where I, couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't really function. Thank goodness for my roommates who really, trudged along with me and during that time, and physically got me out of bed into class some days. So it really, it takes an army with all of that stuff. And I'm grateful for the army that I've had throughout my life to help me with that.
I love it. You speak so eloquently. It's so great.
Well, I'm in sales, so
So funny. Yes, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, yes, she definitely can communicate. So are you still friends with those individuals now who helped you?
100%.
Oh my goodness.
They are like family to me. Yeah. We hardly ever see each other. We saw each other for, I think, our 20th, I'm aging myself, college reunion, right before COVID. And it was, we hadn't seen each other. We hadn't been together, all four of us, since college. And it was like we didn't miss a beat. 20 years had gone by and we didn't miss a beat. And, some of us have kids, everybody has a different career, all those things. And it was just, instantly walked into the house, sat on the floor, had some wine, and, 6 hours later, still talking. So it's really, I'm really grateful for those connections in my life to help me with that. And I think we all need those, right? We all need those safe connections in, you can do this in work too, but in even your personal life, you kind of have this personal board of directors, if you will, these people that you tap into certain times for certain things. And, I have a handful of them, not many, and that's my choice. But they're family, which is great.
I really like that. So, while going to school and, being body conscious, right? Like during that time, because I can relate to that. I had body dysmorphia. So, regarding the scar, did you not do certain things like go swimming, wear a bathing suit, things like that because of your scar?
Yeah. So I didn't wear shirts that would show it for a long time. Grade school, I never would wear a shirt that would show it. Junior high, I think I got a little bit better physically. So you talked about swimming, things like that. I had a hard time physically doing some things. So swimming is one of them. I had my 6-month-old surgery, my first surgery. They actually went around my back. And they took out a main artery from my right arm and rerouted it into my heart. So my right arm gets really weak a lot. So swimming is difficult for me. I mean, I can, tread water a little bit, and I did take swimming classes, but it was a difficult thing. I found myself going, oh my gosh, how come I can't keep up? What's going on? And again, that was years later where I tapped into like, oh, well, because my arm is weaker, that's why I couldn't keep up. Same thing with gym. Oh my gosh, I hated gym in high school. It was the worst. And we had this big, school, and then it was on this big kind of park area. So in the spring, fall area, we would run the whole park. And it was such a nightmare for me. I couldn't run. It was exhausting. We were, at altitude. So I'm in Colorado now too, and altitude is a very real thing for people who are heart patients, because we're also oxygen deprived a little bit. Our lungs are affected as well. So it just was really a struggle of not knowing what was wrong with me, right? Why can't I keep up with the other kids? How come I can't do this? And then years later, when I started with a trainer, and then he was a runner, and so he was like, well, just try it. And it was literally 1 minute at a time on the treadmill, super slow. Okay, how can I do this? How can I do this? And then I worked it up to I did a half marathon before my surgery, and then went into my last surgery as an adult. That was about 9 years ago. And then after surgery was when I was like, okay, my recovery year is going to be running. And that's what I did. I did 12 races within that year. The last one was on the year mark of the surgery. And I did a half marathon then. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of mental stability to get there, right? And it took me a long time to do that, because I was in my depression and my anxiety and all those things, to not be able to control how I was reacting at the time, right? So it took a lot of lessons through a lot of therapy to figure out, okay, how do I check myself? How do I balance this out?
Yeah.
What is happening right now? Yeah.
I really like how you said that, a lot of therapy, because therapy is a game changer. I mean, it saved my life. I mean, it, for self-growth and healing. I want to ask you a question. Do you feel like, because you are a heart patient, you were going through all those challenges that affected, your mental, your physical, like, possibly your spiritual, like, and how, you saw yourself, how others saw you, being more so considering those opinions. Do you feel like that's what drove you to give you purpose, to run those races and to be successful in your career, that I still need to make something of myself because this is not going to overpower my life?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that draws me that way. One is time. I'm highly aware of time on Earth and how much time we have, because I always, I have a lot of triggers. I'm in the hospital at least once a year for a full day with tests, just on my heart, not even other normal things going on. And so it really is something that I'm acutely aware of. More so than most. I think, when you don't have a physical ailment, or you don't have something going on mentally, you can get mundane, right? You can go through life and you always have tomorrow. And then we realize we don't at some point in time. And that's usually when we lose someone, or something tragic happens. But then also, once that happens, then we tend, because it didn't directly happen to us physically or mentally, then we tend to just go back to what we've done. And I saw that growing up. I was constantly looking for other things and wanting to experience life. And it really was something that it is an absolute driving force of every single thing I do. The other thing is that my dad had severe depression. He was manic, and he was the best dad on the planet. But he struggled in life massively. And I really noticed once I was getting older, when I was in college, he could not hold a job. He really, really, really struggled. And then I lost him when I was 21. So he passed away from cancer when I was 21. It was the year I was graduating college. It was 2 months prior to me graduating college. And so that was also a game changer, of looking at that, analyzing that, and saying, I know I have a lot of his mental stuff, right? I have a lot of his great stuff too, but I know I struggle with some of those things. I can't be him. I need to see the world. I need to explore and be successful. And how do I do that? And I've got to pull myself up from the bootstraps and figure this out. And that is when I really was headstrong into therapy. Because the other thing about therapy, and I do think, I agree with you, I think everyone on the planet needs to go to a therapist at least once. Even if they think they don't have anything, because we all have stuff, right? Yeah. And so I think it's a game changer, but you also have to be ready for it. So you can sit in an office, you can do a virtual with somebody, and it's never going to get you anywhere unless you're ready to be there. And unless you're ready to really take that plunge and do the work. Right. And that's scary. That's a scary place to be. But once you get through it, and once you start coming on the other end, oh man, it's just amazing. It's amazing to see the things, right? And to learn all these things of like, okay, if I go too far this way, I need to check myself. Like, what's happening right now? And how do I not go down that rabbit hole again? So yeah, those were the two pivotal things. Watching my dad kind of go through that and really struggling. And then that awareness of time as well. And I always, it's funny, because my mom, I lost her 2 years ago, but she always would say to me, you are never settled. You are never settled. You can't ever be settled. Yeah. And for a long time I struggled with that. Like, oh, how come I can't be the one that settles? How come I can't be the one that is like, let's settle down. Let's have the house till we retire. Like, let's retire. Let's do all these things. And that just that didn't make sense to me. I want to explore. I want to experience. I want to create and be a part of this journey, not just living, but really experience it.
I really like that. So going through all of that, did you ever feel like you have to give back somehow to charity, or did it make you want to start something of your own?
Yeah. So I grew up in a really giving family. So we, every single year, this was my dad's doing, and it's definitely part of my DNA. Every single year, if I got birthday gifts or Christmas gifts, then something in the house was going. So whatever toys I got, toys were moving out of the house. So I'm not a keeper of things at all. If like I'm not using it, then it's got to go.
I like that.
But I think, that really was a thing. I volunteered at the Boys and Girls Club when I was little with my dad. So it was always this thing with my dad that had really this nonprofit vibe to him. And I actually thought, I have a psychology degree, and I actually thought I wanted to work in nonprofit for a brief time after college. It definitely wasn't for me. I like the volunteer side of it more. But I've always volunteered. And now I'm on the board of a national congenital heart defect nonprofit. So that's, it's called Conquering CHD, and they do things from child through adult. So that's really good. And the people on there that have started that and are creating really a successful movement in that are amazing. So I'm really blessed to be able to be on those things and to be a part of that community. Growing up, I was never a part of a CHD community. That's the other thing that was a little bit disconnect for me, was I was the only person I ever knew with CHD. However, I guarantee you that everyone listening has met someone with CHD, you just didn't know it. So going through that, it was really difficult. And then when I, moved to Colorado, I've been here for a long time now. Wow. The very first time I ever met someone with CHD was because I got involved with another nonprofit. We did a heart walk here. And that was the first time that I had ever met someone. And I was 32 years old.
Wow.
And it was crazy because then 2 years later, I was on an operating table. So it was, it was necessary. The universe works in great ways, but that was a huge disconnect. So I'm really happy that there are lots of nonprofits out there now that are doing great things, and people can tap into them to get some things, because I was isolated in that.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that about, a different disease as well, where the person's looking for groups and more people to connect with. Do you feel that it has ever brought up a trigger for you, or it has been uncomfortable for you to be a part of like a group like that? Or has it been helpful?
It's both. It's both. It's funny because thinking about talking about this, I am very surface when I talk about my heart condition, which is interesting. I can get super passionate and talk for hours around my business and what I love there. But it is difficult for me to go to that place with this. And I think, that's a protective barrier that I have. Being on those nonprofits, seeing, the last thing that we did in DC before COVID, and it was this yearly thing that they do. I mean, there's lots of people in the room. Everybody has CHD, or they have kids with CHD, and the stories are what get me. Watching these kids who've had multiple heart transplants and things that I can't even imagine going on, right? Much greater scale than what I deal with. It's inspiring, but then also like, I need to get out of the room. I know my line. That's another thing to be really aware of. I think when we are going through anything that's trauma, physical or mental, we need to know our line of our safe space. It's great to be involved in these types of organizations, but we need to be careful that we're not fully invested in that to where it's drawing from us. I see that a lot in nonprofits, and because we want to help, right? And we want to be a part of that movement, and we want to do all these things, but we let go of that safety net. And I think it's really important to keep that because it's detrimental. It can be detrimental to us, mentally and physically. And even things like going to the hospital are triggers for me. So there's a lot of triggers that I have. I was just dealing yesterday with a call for insurance, and that triggered me. Of like, okay, how do I get through this? Because it sets me off of like, I have a heart condition. This is there's always something medical going on, always in this house. And so it really is one of those things of like, some days it just feels overwhelming. Like you can't get away from it. You know, I went to the doctor's office a couple months ago, and it literally was for a blood draw. That's all it was for a blood draw. And right. I cried. I walked out and I cried because just the physical structure of a hospital
That's right.
is triggering.
That's right.
So knowing those things, right? Because that took me a long time to figure out, like, why am I drama right now when I'm getting just a blood draw, right? Like, get your stuff together, game. Like, what is going on? But that's why. And I think it takes us a while to get to be aware of that stuff. And then it's powerful, right? The other flip side of that is I would never change this for anything. You know, I would never not have a heart condition. It has taken a lot from me, but it has given me life. It has really given me the purpose to live fully. And I would not change that for the world.
It's great. I love your personality. And I also love that, you know, you didn't shut down and just suppress yourself and like stay in that space. Like you're still able to be yourself and show your personality while saying, hey, I had these things, but this is how, you know, my boundaries are and this is how I cope with it. Most people can't even do that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, to be honest with myself and my journey, I need to be honest with others. That doesn't mean I'm going to share, you know, every single detail, but it does. I am human, and no one gets out of this life unscathed, right? We all have trauma, and it's whether how we choose to deal with that. And mine has always been public. You know, I grew up musically, so I grew up on stage and did all the things with theater, and so I think for me it's a natural setting to just communicate it. In a safe way, but communicate it of like, this is who I am, right? In business, this carries over because there's days that I'm having a rough day.
That's right.
You know, my heart's a little funky today, or I can't take a deep breath today, things like that are going on. It's real, it's life, right? The same thing of like people who have kiddos that are sick, or, you know, a dog that was just at the vet, or, I mean, it's just life. And so communicating that just makes you human, I think.
That's incredible. So I know you said you speak, and I know you speak well, and we all know that now. So have you spoken to kids yet who have, you know, CHD?
Yeah, so I have not. I do some work on the nonprofit side with the organization, but I haven't spoken directly with kids. That's a great idea to do that.
Yeah, I can see you doing that.
I need to do that. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I'm gonna run with that. I'll keep you posted.
It really is. It really is. You know, I can really see you starting like an academy for kids. I mean, whether it be called academy or not, for children, maybe your own nonprofit who have CHD. I mean, whenever that comes about, if that can be a goal of yours, I can envision it in my mind right now, you with a group of kids, like taking a picture.
Yeah.
Or even if you go there to speak, you know, just surrounded by kids. I just be surrounded by kids. That's just something I'm like called to say.
Well, thank you. They have a great camp just west of here. They have them nationally for heart kiddos, severe heart kiddos. So kiddos that really struggle. And they have a wonderful camp that does like horseback riding and all the things. And they have a full medical staff equipped there, which is pretty impressive. I think it's hard to get into because it's so popular, but it's such a great outlet. It's a lot. So many things have happened since I was born. You know, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have cell phones. So all the things of this community bringing itself together. You know, I'm on a couple different private Facebook pages of parents with kiddos that have the exact same condition I have. There's about 35 different heart defects. Wow. A lot. But I'm also on, you know, a lot of the nonprofit stuff and those types of things. And it's interesting to see what comes through and what's going on and be a part of that at a distance, but being a part of it where, you know, I couldn't have done that when I was 20. So
I really love you sharing your story, you know, that you're able to share it freely and it has a flow to it. And also I enjoy your heart earrings.
I wore them for you today.
That's incredible.
They're usually saved for Heart Month, so
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, what is your goal now? Like when it comes to your personal life? And then we're going to get into your career.
Yeah. My goal now for my personal life, for a long time, I was career driven, just like a lot of people within corporate. And then some things changed with that. That was a 17-year career. It was a wonderful career. I loved really every second of it. But it was getting exhausting and it was cutting into my physical because I was in sales and I had a territory. So I was on a plane all the time and I was traveling all the time. And the older I got, the more my body could not do that. And I had to really, the last couple of years of being in that, I really had to own that, to start owning that and saying, it's okay to let that go. Your health comes first. And we need to figure out how you can make that happen. And that really is how I live, my life. My health does come first. If something is going on, everything else is dropped. And I make sure of that. I'm on a wave like everybody else with working out and food and all those things, but I am focused on that. And that's at the core of who I am. And so that doesn't go very far out of that core. So that's really where it is now, is really being able to be in a more relaxed state with that, honestly, of not having to go, and being able to allow myself to say, I want to go for an hour walk today, and that's what I'm going to do. Instead of, but I have all these other things that I could accomplish for work, which is always going to be there, right? There's always going to be these creative things and things going on. But it's really important for me to be centered and check in with myself and say, I need to go hear the sounds of kids running around in the park. I need to smell the smells of spring. I need to listen to a dog barking. I need to do those things because that's truly then me experiencing life and checking in with myself. And so those are the things that I, in this next chapter of my life, if you will, with this career and with where I am now, are the things that I actually really, really, really love to do. And travel. I've always been a huge travel person, and not just because I want to see other places, but I really love being immersed into culture. I really love seeing different things. I always say that, every city has its own heartbeat. It has its own rhythm. And I love that. I love experiencing that. I love standing in Times Square and feeling the energy that's totally different than anywhere else in the world. Yeah. Right. And I just can't get that. But that experience then also shapes who I am in my life and gives me more opportunity. I can see bigger, if you will.
I think that's incredible. A question I have regarding your family, were they always consistently supportive of everything?
100%. Yeah. I'm an only child and I had 4 parents. So I was overkill on the parent drive there. I had, and I hated it. I hated it until I was about probably 25. Because it's like, who wants their parent around all the time? And good Lord, it was just a lot. But they really, now that I am an adult and I see how other people with that came from divorce type families live and grew up, I was like, oh my gosh, I had the most amazing family. So they were divorced when I was like 6 or 7. My dad remarried about a year after that to my stepmom, who's truly a second mom to me. She's still living. And then my mom remarried a couple years after that. So I always had 4 parents at a young age, and they were a united front. They would meet monthly to discuss about me, to see where things were going. Oh, I know. It was like this whole different thing. And it was normal to me. So now seeing families that really struggle, with the communication side and things, I'm like, why? I don't understand that at all. It's such a disconnect for me because all 4 of my parents were, every birthday we were all together, graduation we were all together. They really stepped up on that and were always so supportive. They'd go out to see me in college all together. We're just a big family. Yeah.
You are truly blessed.
Oh, yeah.
That is very rare. I've never heard of that before. And I've spoken to so many people in my lifetime, and I've never heard, unless in movies, like a family like that. But I mean, it's well deserved with everything you're going through, because it could have always been worse. So it's like, that was the light, you know, for you in your life during those times, right? And I just find it to be, I feel everyone needs an angel or that one person to get them through that time. And it's like you had 4. So that's why I say, like, it's a blessing to have more than, you know.
Yeah. And they were always with me. You know, both my mom and my stepmom were by my side at my surgery when I was 34. And my aunt, my mom's sister, came out too. It just, they were always there, you know. My mom and my stepmom actually became very, very close. They were really good friends for a long time. So it was this, and talk about women empowerment there too, right? I learned so much from those two of the strength that they have, and the courage and the willingness to step up and say, we have a child among us, and so let's figure this out as adults. And then to go through all of that, and on the other side, then they become true friends. Like that's amazing. You know, my mom came over when my dad passed. My stepmom had this huge garage sale thing going on, and my mom came over and helped for the weekend. And went through all the things. And she's like, we laughed so hard. We saw all these things that, you know, when I had back in the 70s with your dad. And I was like, what? I mean, it really was this beautiful, beautiful thing. And I am so, so grateful and blessed by that. And you know, you said angel. So I have to point out too that my sister, even though I never met her, has always been with me. Always. I have felt her from the beginning. And so she always comes and goes as well. And I think it's just a incredible thing to feel that and let that in. And, you know, she's like, I'm here, I'm hanging with you. You know, I want to see how you do. So I am in that kind of just in that world, still very close to my sister, although we've never met yet. So, yeah.
That's the spirituality aspect. So is there a specific religion you practice?
No.
You just feel, right?
I just feel.
Those who believe, I mean, we've all been through something, hopefully all of us, to where something is not understandable that happened. That was like a miracle for all of us during a tough time. And there's always like light at the end of the tunnel. But, you know, you mentioned communication. So I studied interpersonal communication and public speaking. Of course, like I speak as well. And so the reason why I did it was because I wanted to, I thought that would bring my broken family together. So when was it you started studying communication, you know, for your book, Sales and Presence?
So that was an interesting journey. You know, I have a degree in psychology, and then did not know what I was going to do with that. I knew I did not want to counsel people. I don't, although I think counseling is amazing. I don't have the patience for that.
I don't.
I could not do it. And I'm so grateful for all that can. But so I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. My mom was so worried. What are you going to do with your life? What's going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. I might waitress for the rest of my life. And then I fell into sales, truly. There was a company, pro tip here. If you're ever looking for a job, look at the company, not the job. So figure out the company you want to work for, not the job you want.
I like that.
Yeah, it's great because, you know, a lot of times you can get a job, but then the company, you don't vibe with the company. You need the company to kind of be a family, right? But you know, the company was great and all this stuff. So they were hiring for inside sales at the time, and I needed a job. So I was like, great, they hired me. I had no idea what I was doing. It was cold calling for dollars. And then it quickly turned to, oh, I get this. I like this. And it was just because I was communicating. It had nothing to do with sales. It had everything to do with the psychology of connecting with a human and figuring out, okay, you need this. I have this product. How do we create together? And that's really how I took on sales, which is it's coming around to that. There's a lot of companies now that are seeing kind of relationship selling as the hot thing right now. But really that's kind of how I always did it. And then when I was exiting that, I was like, now what do I do? You know, I really want to take some of the aspects that I love about sales, my psychology degree, and put something together. And the other piece of it that I always loved was nonverbal communication.
Yes.
So I'm a watcher, right? I'll watch people all day long and I'm like, nope, they did this with their head, or, oh, look at that little thing that they did with their face. Or, you know, I'm always studying.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was like, I need I need some certification around that to be a business. And so I did. I got certified for nonverbal communication from a company. And so then I put those three things together and created Sales and Presence, which is my company now. It's really a consulting company around sales and how the different aspects of how different companies communicate internally and externally. And then I work with their teams and their salespeople to see those things that we forget about. You know, the thing that we do in sales a lot is what's your product, what's your pitch, what's your quota, what's happening, how come you didn't close this? And we forget about the actual cadence of the client and what's happening with them and how we can switch that up and influence to create instead of, you know, a lot of times we listen to respond instead of listen to hear. 25 to 50% of everything we hear, or we only hear 25 to 50% of what people tell us. So let's listen to half on a good day of what someone is telling us. So there's different tricks and ways to do that to where then you're really present and that moves the conversation forward. So that's really what gets me excited, was just putting all those elements together. I love the study of sales and how, I mean, you know, it's funny to me because I get a lot of people that say, I'm not in sales. I don't do sales. But we're all in sales, right?
That's right.
We're all in sales. We're selling ourselves every single day. You're selling yourself with a friend you haven't seen for 15 years. Are you still on the same platform? Do you still jive with the same thing, or is it not really there anymore? I mean, we're constantly doing that, but we don't call it that. Right? So really having those techniques drives everything forward for you. Yeah.
I freaking love it, Amy, and I'm going to be reading your damn book.
Thanks. I have it right here.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. Just Google my name. Amazon, my name. Yeah.
I know Menser, if you're watching, because I know he loves sales too. And it's like, you guys would be great, like, to have a chat, but this is incredible. And I love everything you say. And I align with it because everyone's in network marketing. Everyone's in sale, like anything you do, right? Go to salon or anything, recommendations. And it's really interesting because it's like, I just find it to be incredible that I'm so glad that you made your own business, you know, out of that, because you have the knowledge, like you have the skills, and it's like, it would go to waste if you didn't, you know?
Well, and I think too, timing is a key factor, right? When I started this, I was like, I know I have something, but I don't know if the world thinks I have something. And that's really important, right? If you follow Simon Sinek, he talks about that a lot. He is definitely one of those people that is kind of this big picture, love everyone, bring it together, let's communicate type of person. But he's the first to say, if I started this 15 years ago, it wouldn't fly with businesses because they weren't ready, right? They weren't ready to switch that up yet. So I think that's a thing too, of like, I started this on the cusp of really companies starting to figure out, okay, what is our value here, and what are we trying to do with our clients, and we need to shift this and make this not as old school as it has been. And I never got those trainings. The other thing that drove me on this too was, you know, being in corporate for so long, every single quarter we'd have a sales training, and it was the exact same training. It was a training either around a product that was new or that we tweaked, or it was a training on pitch and how to, you know, do your 30-second elevator pitch. But it was nothing new. Like for 17 years, it was nothing new. And I always struggled with that. Of like, can we bring this to the table? Like, how are we reaching these people? Is there different techniques on how to form an email? All those things. And there are. And so that's really what I work on, to bring a different aspect. And I think, you know, back to that timing thing, I'm good right now with that timing because it's interjecting into businesses now, and they're craving and looking for something that will elevate their team. And so it's fun. It's super exciting for me to bring it to them.
I may definitely be using your services for Try Together in the future as I build.
Yeah.
I'm in grad school for marketing right now, and, you know, I have an education background with children, and it's really incredible because I'm all about building relationships. That's how I create this community genuinely, because that's who I am as a person, very outgoing, and I love making connections. I love to hear people's stories my whole life. And whether you're homeless, like even if you're homeless, I would ask your name, I would give you a hug. And it's like, it's really about relationship, and I know I have a class coming up about relationship marketing as well. And so what is it really? Is it, the focus of what you do? Is it about how to connect those relationships, or like how to build? Like, what can you elaborate a bit more on that?
Yeah, it's really how to build and drive things forward.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of times we get stuck on, okay, we've met someone, let's do, a virtual coffee and get to know you.
Yeah.
And then now what? Right. And then now it's like, now what do we do? And it's the same thing with corporate business too.
Yeah.
Like you might have someone who's a potential client, you reach out to them, they say hello, you possibly have a first meeting. And then it's really hard to figure out what's next. How do I keep this moving? How do I move this forward?
Yeah.
And that's a struggle for everyone, hands down, everyone. There's statistics out there that really prove that as well. In the sales world, it takes at least 9, they just came out in 2021, new statistics, around 15 times to touch point someone before you get an actual meeting.
Wow.
There are not very many salespeople that do that and do that well. Most of the time we drop off at 3. So when we drop off at 3, it's because we've had that first email or call, right, that they might not have answered, or they might have. And then we do another one, and then we'll maybe do like a coffee meeting or a first meeting. And then what? Right? Then we don't know where to go with it. So getting that arch to create, and then really strategically, like, how do you do that to be authentically you and show up? Because the thing is that it's not enough now to sell a product, right? They all know what your product is. We have internet and we have Google. We didn't have that back in the day. So you were the knowledge that you held all the cards. You don't hold any of the cards now, because they know all the knowledge, whether it's accurate or not. They know all that knowledge. So you got to come in differently and start really being authentic and a bit vulnerable to allow them to actually see you. Because at the end of the day, they're not buying your product, they're buying you, right? They're working with you. I say that in my book. There was a client, I was about 2 years into my career, and I still didn't know what I was doing. I was just totally winging it by then. And I walked into this big client. I worked with banks, sat at this massive boardroom in this fancy big bank, thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And, I did the pitch. I did everything perfect that I was taught. And it's a big sales cycle for what I sold. And it was a lot of money. It was a lot of upheaval, new passwords, new, system stuff, all the things for their entire company. And he looks at me, he's like, so for like a, 50-cent savings per click, why would I do that? Why would I do that and upheaval everything? And I had, on a split second, 2 choices to go there, right? I could still stay on the line of old school sales of like, because we have the best customer service, and because we have great turn times, and because we have all these things, or I could be real. And I was like, I don't have the client anyway, so I'm just going to tell him like it is. And I said, you wouldn't. You absolutely would not. But the reason why you would is because you have me. And I'm a partner. I'm not your salesperson.
Wow.
I work for you, and my company pays me. And that was a pivotal moment for me of being like, okay, now I get this game, right? I get this interaction with people of, it's not the product. It's really this relationship building between you and I. I have something that you need. So does another company, but the difference is that I'm going to partner with you to get you where you want to succeed. I'm not just going to sell you a product. And that really was, I was like, oh, I like this. This is fun, because then you really start to get to know people. And I got to tell you, a lot of those people I still talk with, and I still feel are family. A lot of those clients, those past clients that I don't have anymore, are still family to me. And that's kind of a beautiful thing that comes out of business.
One thing, the word that you keep saying is family, and it's so key for you. Why is that?
Because I think I choose it. I choose it very specifically. I don't have this big open pool of friends. I don't, pre-COVID, I don't go out all the time with people. I don't do all those things. It's really selective to me, and it always has been, on who is in my life. And if they are in my life on that level, then they're family to me. Like and that's that thing. And I think for me, I think that's a only child thing. Like, I hold that closer because I don't have siblings. So for me, if you're there, then you're a sibling to me. Like my college girls are my sisters. A really good friend of mine from college that I've just been texting with, but she's my sister, right? That's their family to me, and I would drop everything to see them. Versus, some people work really well with like, hey, let me call up Susie and we'll just go hang out tonight and we'll do. That's not who I've ever been. So it's a really tight circle that I build and that I'm close with because I want to know them, right? I need that kind of deeper connection with people.
Yes. Interpersonal. It's very important. Those surface relationships, they don't last. You don't really get to know someone and you get to see their intent of they're going to stick around through the ups and downs and all those things.
Right.
It's just really important. So what's next for you?
What's next? I keep building my business. It's super exciting. This year has gotten off to an amazing start, working with different businesses and coming in, doing a lot of trainings for them, a lot of speaking for them, and just keeping on that track.
You're doing so well. You're doing great. Show us your book again.
Yeah, this is the book. It has, if you are interested in nonverbal stuff, it has some really fun nonverbal stuff on how to communicate that way within a business setting.
I love it. I love it. Everyone should go get her book. It looks really awesome. And where can people reach out to you if they wanted to?
They can go to my website, salesandpresence.com, and then they can actually book a consultation if you want for free. We can chat and just learn about you and what's going on and go to next steps.
All right. Salesandpresence.com. Awesome.
Yes.
It was really, really, really refreshing to have you on today. And I just love your spirit. And, when you were speaking now, it's like I even forgot you went through all that. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you were speaking about, your career and sales and presence, I even forgot that you had went through those, obstacles. And it's like, that's incredible.
Yeah, I think.
Have you heard that before?
Yes.
I forgot you even went through that.
I think I take the energy of that and put it into this stuff, right? Instead of keeping the energy, I feel like low, right? Because that's heavy stuff and it's low and it can get big. So I choose to funnel that energy to a different. Because if I don't, then I wouldn't move. If I stayed in the energy of like, oh my gosh, I have this heart thing and I have this, all these things and all these appointments, I probably would never get out of bed. So it's like, how do I funnel that and how do I fuel that in a different way? Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I just love being on. Thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful hour.
I know, right? But it's like, it didn't even feel like it because of the energy. When you enjoy, like Sadhguru says, I don't know if you follow Sadhguru, when you're happy in life and you're joyful, it's like time goes fast, but you live a miserable life if, you don't like what you do. So.
Yes, 100%.
Just so good. Thank you once again.
Thank you, lady.
Bye.
Bye.